Is art dead? No, not when there's a marketplace for it. But is art alive? No, because it's not an animate subject.
不对，我就觉得一定会继续发展的，一定会有新的形式出现。我们没有办法去到未来啊，我们不知道接下来的路会怎样发展啊，所以是未知啊。
One of the, the classic tropes of the avant-garde is to talk about the end of art, and this has been going on since the end of the 19th century, basically, particularly with the futurists and then the Dadaists and the surrealists and all the things that followed from that. Artists have been talking about the end of art or the end of painting was a big discussion in the kind of middle of the 20th century. But we still see people paying huge amounts of money for painting, so I don't think that's changed massively each other. So I'm not sure where the author you're drawing on is coming from, but unless he is linking the demise of art with the next 20 years to the demise of capitalism within the next 20 years, then I would say he is out and out wrong.
但是如果人类还是人类，艺术就是不会死，它就会还是会继续的这样发展下去。它已经不再是趋向于单一的，只是绘画或者是只是雕塑，它就是一个纵观的形式来看问题，而不是只是单一的看问题。
I think that what is happening at the moment is that there is a whole bunch of new canvases and new opportunities being created, and at the moment they're very fluid, and no one really knows what digital art looks like, what 21st century contemporary art looks like. And what it isn't is existing fine artists taking their work and putting it online. That's not, to my mind, that's not native to the technological place that we're in now in the 21st century. I think what's happening in online, generated by young people who have had the internet in their lives since they can remember, I think that's where real 21st century art is going to be generated. And at the moment, it's probably not seen as art at all. I mean, I've seen things like interesting Twitter bots, for example, where they're programmed to respond to someone else's tweet in a certain way. Now, to me, that's a much more interesting response to play with that sort of stuff. And I think if your brain's not wired for the internet, you can't really generate it. Now, it's probably not going to be made by people like me. It's going to be made by people who are much younger. And as I say, I think there will be some hostility from the existing fine art world, because the other thing about fine art is that despite its protestations, it's very much about monetization. Fine art doesn't work in this day and age unless there is a thing that can be sold. So it's actually, ironically, it's very product-based, and if you can't hang it in a gallery, if it just exists online for everyone else to consume, in the same way that video art was very problematic until people discovered how they could turn it into something of value, real, native creativity blooming spontaneously on the internet, the existing fine art world does not yet know how to monetize that, and therefore rejects it and says, this can't be fine art because it doesn't suit our business model. Well, I say it can, it is, and it will destroy their business model. But how? I don't know.
I don't think art is finished as long as capitalism is going, because what you see is a lot of people investing in art. There's a huge amount of investment, and of course it would be wonderful if that investment value collapsed. I think when you think about the amount of labour that goes into pieces of work which are really highly valued, and the value, there's no correlation between the labour and the work. But when you think about the art production system as a whole, and all the artists who are unsuccessful and all the labour they put into works that don't make money, and you think that the few pieces within the system then valorise that work, then you can make sense of the prices. But there's also a series of collectors, a small coterie of collectors who have a really vested interest in maintaining the value of their collections, and So they'll kind of rig the market, and obviously there's already talk of, you know, artists kind of doing insider bidding for their own work. I mean, all these kind of rumours go around, but nothing is very much proved. But I think you can be sure that as long as people have invested huge amounts of money in art, they're going to make sure that the work has value. And as long as capitalism continues, you will have this luxury market in art. So I would be very happy if art collapsed within the next 20 years, but but art will only collapse in the next 20 years if capitalism collapses as well. So, you know, it's related to the kind of economic system that we're in. So, but I don't think capitalism is inevitably going to collapse within the next 20 years, although it might. But I don't think art will collapse without the collapse of capitalism. The two things entirely.
I think technology today is disruptive by nature. We're in a time where, you know, 10 years ago people would say, no, technology doesn't disrupt. The publishing industry will never change. The music industry will never change. The interior design industry will never change. Education models will never change. And they're all being proved wrong one by one. And now I think there is a consensus that what is currently happening is that everything is being remodeled and refashioned. Now it will then settle, and what's happening in publishing, for example, is that a new model is currently being generated, or indeed the music industry, because that was one of the first things to fall. We are actually seeing exactly how will the music industry function post-digital. And it's still not worked out quite yet, but it's pretty near the end of the transition. In other areas, and fine art is one of them, that transition isn't yet finished. And it hardly begun, in fact. And I think in education it's still fairly young. And in some industries it's not really penetrated yet. But the nature of where we're at is constant change, constant innovation, constant disruption. So yes, I think that's inevitable, really. And it's very exciting, and it's very overstimulating, and it's very anxious making, and it kind of, you know, it's a whole new mindset that you have to treat as the norm from which to operate. It's never going to stop now. Not for the foreseeable future. The transition is going to be at least another 5-10 years, if not more. So you have to act from a place where disruption and innovation is always going to happen. And that's the basis of the whole lean thinking model, which is one of the things, agile and all that practice, which is kind of one of the few stable things coming out of the current climate. It's not ever going to go backwards. It's here to stay. We have to move beyond it. There are bad things and good things, and our responsibility as a species is to try and make sure that we stay on the good side, really. People said TV would rot everyone's brains. I think when the Gutenberg press was invented, the idea that everyone should have a book in their house, that was a terrible thing, you know. Oh my God, you can't give the peasants books because they'll be educated and then they will take over. So technology's always had its downside as it's evolved, but you know, I think we have to embrace it and move forward and enjoy it, because there's clearly something very fundamentally magical happening. Everybody responds to the new opportunities that have emerged in the last 10 years, and everybody responds positively. So technology is only a good thing.
I don't think there's a huge relationship between art and technology. I mean, obviously technology is not neutral, and it influences how we operate in the world.
我听过一句话，在网上听的是高晓松说的。他说，当科技很好的发展的时候，艺术是平庸期。就等于说，以第一次、第二次世界大战来说，他会打仗是因为他要去侵略，要去拿更多很好的东西，是吗？每个国家为自己，它是一种私欲的表现。就是因为科技发展了，带动他们需要不停的更多的一些利益集中于自身，所以那时候科技是发展的，艺术是平庸的。当他们的精神处于一个极度贫瘠的状态下，他就需要艺术发展。所以2次世界大战以后，就艺术就会出现了一个很辉煌的发展的时期。到了现代，就是因为现代科技在不断的发展，所以你会觉得现代的艺术是相对来说比较平庸一些的，但是它会这样继续往前走。
I think our relationship with technology is at a crucial point at time, and suddenly we've swung into technology addicts and technology evangelists. Not everybody, but a very large number of people who 10, 15 years ago wouldn't have daily engaged with technology and would have maybe gone, oh, I don't like that. I want to read a book, now we're all engaging with the digital sometimes every hour, sometimes every 5 minutes. So it's a massive social experiment. And I think that a lot of people working in the digital space, making creative work, don't necessarily come from a traditional fine art background. They don't embody the same way of operating. I think there's a lot more kind of design thinking and more artisan thinking and that kind of stuff. I mean, an artist, their duty, I think, is to go into the world and look at what's happening that people are missing, that what's invisible. They look at the world and see it in a different way and then show us this new way of looking at the world. If they're looking at a leaf or a tree or an iPhone screen, it's all stuff to play with. There's an old art school question where they say, if I make a great painting, a fantastic painting, and then I burn it, is that art? I say no. I say it's a waste of time. But some artists and some tutors would say, that's art, because I expressed myself in a moment and then it was gone. So I don't have the right answer there. I have one answer that I feel strongly about, but you know, that's the other point of view, that art is about expression of the soul and then the audience is secondary. But I don't believe that. I believe the audience is first in many ways, in most ways. Certainly it has to also come from your soul. I want to connect with people in a profound and emotional way, and if I do that through something that's considered to be popular culture, or considered to be design, or considered to be street art, or considered to be an app, or whatever it is, I don't really care. Now, for me, it's about how does it affect an audience, and what does that audience get from it? Do they feel attachment to it? Do they feel a strong emotion? Do they feel that they've been affected in some way? And if it ticks those boxes, then I'm happy.
我觉得它当代艺术已经不是浅层式的，只是对美的一个平面化，或者是三维化，或者只是一个简单的一个表述，它已经上升为跟思想相结合的一个状态。它是想要给人们一个世界观。
I think art was always kind of entertainment and a pleasurable experience, but it's the people making claims about what they're doing being art that has changed. So,
well, I think that art's not purely about pleasure. It's about provoking some kind of reaction, and that reaction doesn't have to be a positive one necessarily. It has to be a profound one to me. And I look at a lot of fine art and I don't get a profound response from it, in a similar way to I'll watch a lot of movies and I don't think they're very good movies, you know. So I think that, I mean, I like art with a capital A. I think a film can be as profound as a painting. Wants more. And it's our responsibility as designers to make sure that those opportunities are ones that make people evolve in a good way rather than a bad way. And it's a big challenge. It can only be a good thing for humanity, technology, as long as we have creative practitioners using their skills well and positively. So do it. Go for it.